Hi everyone, this is Tom from NoCode Shots, where I interview no-code founders and agencies all over the world. And today I'm having Michael with me. Michael, could you please introduce yourself and tell us more about the project you are working on?
Hi, I'm Michael Marsak. I'm from Martech Studios. We're a 7-person agency based out of the US with a worldwide remote team. We build on Bubble, Xano, Webflow, and Flutterflow, and are trying to move into hardcode. So I'm going to show you Diadem Capital. Diadem Capital is an investment platform for startup founders and investors to connect and raise rounds and then deploy capital. We've been working on Diadem for a little bit over a year now, and they've been featured on TechCrunch, raised a seed round, and have acquired, I think, a list of 700 plus investors. So now should I sign in?
Yep, let's sign in and let's check how it works.
Cool. So we can come in here.
So it's an interesting combination because the landing page is in WordPress and the app is in Bubble, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We prefer to build in Webflow nowadays, but yeah, WordPress initially, and that's what we worked with in our earlier days. Just going to put the date here. Here's a little tidbit for any of you Bubble devs out there. You can always use the plus here and just reuse the same email. Oh, I got to make it longer though. We're going to go through the investor flow because they're the predominant user we care about here.
So you can either sign up as an investor or a founder, right? And you're creating your investor profile.
Exactly. It's a two-sided, and we work with founders and investors. Investors of all types do. They do institutional, they do banks, they do loans. They do a lot of different kinds of friends. So we ask how you found out about us. We talk about the funding types you're willing to do. You tell us what kind of investment group you are. So for us, we'll say we're like a corporate VC or something. Firm name, Mike Testing. Got to tell the Diadem team. They'll get a message when this goes live. We'll just grab their site here, drop it here, from location, your job title, test, continue. So now basically the way the flow works for this project is investors can come on, start giving you some information about them, and then they need to be approved by the Diadem team. We've built an admin page where that sequence connects. But more or less, yeah, you come in, you book a call. You're going to complete your profile by adding details about yourself. So I'll come in here, add a photo, location, whether I work remotely, your basic data gathering that you'd see in many kind of apps. But the real magic, the real fun part of this project happens over here in investment buckets. And the results of investment buckets you see on the browse deals page and the home page once you've been approved, though, sadly. So what is a bucket? A bucket is a set of criteria that an investor provides us with that we use to overlap and build a matching algorithm with the startup founders we work with. So you can imagine a startup can come in and say, hey, I sell B2B, I sell software, and I sell within the insurance industry, right? Those might all be key variables we say as an investor that I'm interested in. We also have two different kinds of buckets, right? We have one for equity, if you're going to do an equity raise and give up a stake in your company, or you can do a debt raise, which is a little bit more complicated in this app due to the various kinds of loan agreements that exist out there. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to go through the equity bucket because it gives a good idea of what a bucket even is. So let's create an equity bucket. We have a little tutorial here. I'm going to kind of cruise through it, but it kind of tells users a little bit more about what they can expect while building their first bucket. It only happens on the first bucket because we're trying to teach them how to use the tool.
It's built on Bubble, the tutorial, or it's some kind of a plugin? Because there's an often question for how to build such tutorials on.
Yeah, it's a common plugin. If you don't mind me hopping over here real quick, I'll just go to the tutorial. I believe it's, yeah, walkthrough onboarding tour was the best one we found on the plugin store for Bubble. But by all means, you could do it directly within Bubble and maybe a little bit of like JavaScript, CSS kind of stuff. So we'll come back to our app. So you can select themes like categories. Maybe you invest in all female founders or B2B SaaS, as we had mentioned. You can then apply them. You can tell us, hey, I don't ever want to be interacting with a sector in cannabis. Maybe you don't ever cannabis, right? And let's go back out of here. And then ideally you tell us what you do like to interact with, right? AI is hot right now, so we'll say we invest in AI. And these are all the different variants of AI that you can invest in. You can add them, take them away, whatever, right? The business models you're okay with. What's cool about this is these different themes kind of come with different things pre-packaged inside of them. So if a theme of yours is B2B SaaS, the business models you care about are probably B2B. And that's kind of what you can expect in terms of business model and revenue model is they kind of
pre-populates, pre-populates automatically based on
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Sure.
Pre-packaged, yeah. Pick your funding stages, etc. I'm going to move through a little faster here. And then do you do bridge rounds, which is a huge thing in the venture world right now. Actually, a very interesting topic with funding going away. And I personally think from the aftermath of crypto and whatnot, funds are starting to be a lot more selective about where they deploy capital. So you're finding in the world of VC and investors and debtors that bridge rounds are very commonplace right now, trying to get people to extend their lifespan until they can reach their next set of milestones and raise another large round. We're going to say no for now, though. And then, you come and give it a name, and then we're going to go through the full process of it. So you select where you'd want to interact with. You can do the US or other countries as well. I believe I don't think we have the whole world, but I think we do offer maybe 50 to 70 countries, something like that. This is all done through OptionSense, by the way, for people watching. Not the funnest in the world. There are some plugins you can use to bring over Excel sheets. So you can grab this all from an Excel sheet online and then upload it in bulk. Easier said than done sometimes. And then, here's where you come in and kind of add in more of your specific criteria. I'm just going to add in really big numbers so that we have a wide net.
And this actually creates this investment bucket as a profile of interest for this investor, right? In the database.
Yeah, so the investor is actually not one-to-one, right? An investor doesn't make one bucket. They can make many buckets. You think of, like they're trying to work with bigger companies too. So think like Anderson Horowitz and whatnot. They have several funds. They have one for gaming or esports, and then another for AI, and another one for deep tech, right? So this is a bucket is just one umbrella of what you're interested in, but you can have it if you want. Ideal revenue range, you can do this in a range, or you can do, we got to fix that copy though. We'll just put a high number again here. You can add a sweet spot. You don't need it though. Sweet spot is kind of, is there a specific number where you're like, it's a definite yes from me, right? I need to remove that. Now here's where you can start picking more nuanced things, right? So how big is your market? What is your burn rate? How much money do you spend? I had to learn a lot of terms, and there will be some more terms here that might be not as familiar to everyone. That's okay.
So you can dig really deep into the details of the selection, right?
Exactly. But again, for the sake of casting a wide net, because I don't know all the information of the startups off the top of my head, I'm gonna not add these, but you can. So we could say how much debt we keep there, or total raised, or whatever, right? Same thing over here. You could say how much ownership should do you as an investor choose to acquire every time you invest in something? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? How often do you lead an investment round versus co-invest, right? Are you come second or first? And then these are kind of self-explanatory. Is it a solo founder? Is it a first-time founder? And then what percentage does the founder own, right? And we'll skip this for right now. Structure. This is how do you want to structure what you're raising, right? Preferences on that, right? So Y Combinator, for instance, I'm pretty sure they're the ones who made the safe. So they would come in here and put safe. Round size. Round size is how much are you expecting them to raise, and
Mm-hmm.
the valuation cap.
Sure.
Are we giving
And you
these
can
people?
always skip these steps if you don't want to do it.
If
Mm-hmm.
you don't want them, if you want a wider casting
Yeah,
net, or you don't
sure.
put these in your equation that you do on Excel, which is what we're trying to eliminate here, right? Making that automated. You can. And then some more basic information for investors or debtors: year-over-year growth, quarter-over-quarter. Obviously, if you're not growing, no one wants to give you money, sadly. um, and
Life.
gross. Say what?
This is life, right?
This is
Growing, no
life.
money.
Yeah, yeah. Grow or die.
Yeah.
Um, and then we'll skip that, and you can kind of come over here and you can keep track of. So, oh, I didn't
Uh-huh.
add anything for round details. I can come and edit it. I'm going to come back and add a round
That's
size.
interesting. Yeah, that's pretty advanced creator, right? So,
Yeah, it definitely took time, and we rebuilt it and reimagined the UX several times. So, but definitely well thought out. They have a really awesome designer, and just a generally really good team to work with. They know what they want.
have you
uh,
been designed it, or I mean, it was designed in Bubble, or it was pre-designed, for example, in
it
Figma
was
and then moved to Bubble?
Yeah, it was designed in Figma. So this
Mm-hmm.
group came from, I'm not going to name names of companies, but they all kind of came from one company, the founding
Mm-hmm.
group did, at least. And then as that company started to perform worse, some of their folks were leaving. And as their folks were leaving, they started to scoop up some ex-team members,
Yeah. Okay.
such as their designer and whatnot. But yeah, their designer is excellent, and yeah, been a pleasure to work with them. So I'm going to save this bucket now. And again, what stinks about this a little bit, here's a survey we asked them after they use it before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give them a good grade, so their percentage is high.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Test. So you submit your feedback, and now we come back to this
Okay.
page, and you can
Mm-hmm.
get your bucket. You can go edit it if you want. Tons of fun stuff. You can go change it and rerun it. But what's actually
Mm-hmm.
happening right now, I don't see any matches hitting yet. We won't be able to really see them anyway because these portions are blocked off to us until we're approved.
Sure.
But
But
what
in the
happens?
background, so we are now drafting it in the background, digging into the database and doing this matching, right?
Yep. So we have a back
Mhm.
end workflow that runs recursively. And basically what it does is it runs through, I want to say, like, there's like 9 or 10 variations of this algorithm, um,
Mm-hmm.
based off of whether you're doing an equity or debt bucket.
Sure.
There's different variations. And then what it does is it goes through each of those individual categories we selected, and it cross compares. So it goes and
Okay.
looks at one startup. It says, "Hey, is this a match? If yes, great. Add it as like a pro
Okay.
uh, for that match,
So
right?"
it's pretty advanced.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a pretty advanced algorithm, and you've built it in Bubble, or it
built it
uses
in
some
Bubble.
external
Built it in Bubble.
APIs. Okay.
It built
Mm-hmm.
in Bubble. It's a great business model and great tech for Bubble because it is very much usage based and it's high ticket. Obviously, you're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands and or millions of dollars. So usage on here isn't as much of a concern as it may be
Yeah,
for, like,
sure.
say, social media. But yeah, all built in Bubble and works great.
Yeah, so as I understand, you cannot show us the backend workflows because this is the secret sauce, but maybe a little
Yeah,
dig deeper
definitely.
into the editor. I mean, how it's constructed, how it's made,
Yeah.
without exposing the backend workflows.
So first thing to note that we love doing at Martech, we built an app a while ago where we built everything on one page, so that it would have really fast load time. That was
Mm-hmm.
obviously when we're still learning. That is wrong to do from my experience
Okay.
unless you use reusable elements. So something for folks out there that I think they can really take away from this, at least from this project, is look at how many reusable elements there are. There's a ton, right? And this helps a lot with the page load speed on both the editor side and for the client side for what your users are going to be using. So everything we've more or less built is going to be in these reusable elements. And then they'll be referenced via URL parameters. If we come back here, you'll notice, you guys can't see it, sadly, because I'm sharing tab, but the URL has parameters in it. Never mind. I'm going to go back to the
Mm-hmm.
other tab. Yeah. But yeah,
So
so
basically, all these reusables are the pages, right? This is how
Mhm.
it's built, right? The typical. So
Exactly.
we've got one page up, but the pages are actually in reusables, right? Not to overload the editor.
Exactly, exactly. Make it load slow. All the code has to load at once. All that. All the workloads are like
Yeah.
simultaneously occurring. That's just not fun, right? It also, yeah, just messy to work with. If anybody's ever had this, obviously already has a bunch of workflows, but if
But
you
it's
had to mess
only for you. It's only for one reusable, right? So imagine there.
exactly,
So
exactly. So it doesn't. We've had one where the RAM on my computer actually shut down because there was too many workflows on one page. Um,
yeah.
anyway, so
So,
coming
so,
back
so guys,
here,
imagine what will happen when you will have all the pages on one page
yeah.
without reusables, right? So don't do it. Don't do it without reusables.
So basically, what we got going on here is we have all of these different steps, and
Mm-hmm.
we're moving through them, as I said, using what is it? I think where is it? We actually might be using custom states for this. I might have been mistaken
Mm-hmm.
about the URL parameter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, we're moving through this using custom states, a simple system. Step 1 through I believe 14 is what it used to be. I don't know if it's 9 now. We've shortened it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you go through and there's various custom states going. So if we go to one of these, let me close these off, turn these hidden, and we come to here. You see here we have a repeating group of option sets here at the top, right? And
Mm-hmm.
as you click them, what we're doing is we're displaying all these different inputs below it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as you go through and click and add these, we're saying, okay, you want total raise, you want runway, and we're using option sets to handle this. So a cool part of this process of building this bucket, because I do think form and survey filling and gathering that information and cross comparing, if you think of Tinders or any kind of thing where you're trying to like make a prediction,
Yeah.
right? You want to be able to give them a lot of control, but also send send to your backend algorithm because that's where you're going to really do most of your powerful stuff is probably in
Yeah.
the back end if you're building like a more complicated project. What we do here is we keep track as we go through these steps of all the various variables that they've clicked on. And what's cool about that is as we're sending that to our backend workflow, we're not wasting workload unit. The reason we're not wasting workload unit is as we send all of those, maybe it's 10, maybe we've selected 10 of them. We only run the actions that
Mm-hmm.
that contain that option set that has been selected on this page, right? So it saves
Mm-hmm.
unit, it runs more efficiently, and it allows us to do 30 to 40 different comparisons pretty quickly because it doesn't waste time going through ones that aren't needed, right?
Yeah, because
Uh,
this form is so complex and has had a lot of dependencies, so it's
yeah.
very important to do it the way you said. And in terms of the database and saving things to database, are you saving these things after the whole form was filled up or during the process?
Yeah, can't show you too much of the data structure,
Yeah,
but
sure. Mhm.
basically, the way it works is a user will sign up, okay? And a user will make one of two things. It'll make an investor or investment firm,
Mhm.
or make a startup, right? Depending on which path we've chosen. We chose investor, right? So, what then? There's like a level of hierarchy on both sides. There's user leads to investment firm, leads to bucket, and then a bucket
Mhm.
leads to what we call matches. And
Mhm.
that is what is the actual overlap between what the startup
Okay.
has added and what the investment firm has
And
chosen
these
in the
matches are actually generated in the background after you create this bucket and you do the calculations on the background, right?
We have
Mhm.
these various this like here.
All
Highly
right.
recommend if
Mhm.
anyone's watching, by the way. Definitely use folders. Please use folders. Folders help a lot. But yeah, we
And
have like
colors, right? And colors.
and colors. I think folders are more important personally. I used to love the colors, but if you have them nicely labeled like this, it makes life
Yeah.
amazing. Um, Cool. So yeah, like I said, we have like several variations of this, but as you can see, I'm not going to show you, you can't see too much of it here anyway, but we're sending through like an iteration for those that know of recursive workflows. This might be something we improve here in the coming months as Bubbles do a workflow, or sorry, do a backend workflow on a list improves. It's gotten a lot better over the last 6
Yeah.
months. So that might be something that you could optimize on for anybody watching. Yeah, bring through the startup, the bucket, which will hold all of our information. And then you notice we send through the criteria here so that we know which options the investor put on the bucket, right? And that gives us an access to that information to be able to reference it here in our workflows.
May I ask one question? Because I see the folder called Salesforce data and Salesforce content. Does it mean that you have also an integration with Salesforce?
Yeah, we have a ton of integrations. Let me pull you over here. So we have, we were using Airtable. We don't use that anymore. That's honestly deprecated. But we have Google sign-in, LinkedIn sign-in, SendGrid, Twilio, and then Salesforce and Supabase. Supabase is actually an interesting one. We'll come back to Salesforce in 1 second. But Supabase is an interesting one for anybody who's used to Bubble or getting new to Bubble. Obviously, one of the questions is eventually when I become a millionaire, I'm going to want to move off of, I'm going to want to move to a hard code solution, right? One thing that is important to note is if that's a part of your long-term plan, there's 2 options, right? When you eventually make that migration, you're either going to need to ask all of your users to create a new password, right? Which in my opinion isn't the best UX in my opinion.
Especially if you have tons of users, right?
Especially if you have tons of users. And to be honest, with investors, they're a little bit more picky, right? They see apps all the time. They expect a higher degree of quality because they're handing out cash to people like it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And they kind of expect a higher quality of experience and visuals, right? So what we did with Supabase is we basically started making our long-term hard code backend now so that all the users were adding into the database.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's automatic. Okay, but actually, are you relying on the Supabase right now? I mean, or just only preparing? I mean, just only the copy for the future. Okay,
Only preparing.
that's
As
smart.
of right now, we don't have a need to. We've used Xano and Supabase and a couple other projects. But this app actually doesn't need it yet, which is great. It's pretty good with Woo. And as I said, there are always things to optimize, always things to optimize. But
sure.
this is a good business model in terms of the cost of Woo compared to the benefit of the users using it to the Diadem team, right? Anyway, to go back to Salesforce, and then I don't want to drone on for too long. Salesforce, that's where they started from. If you think about this, what's cool about Diadem and what I recommend to founders a lot is go sell whatever you do first, right? Everybody talks about this, right? But like, go sell what you're doing. These guys were doing it by hand. They had Salesforce and they had all their data in there, and they were using spreadsheets. And we basically needed to have a joint system between Salesforce and our bubble, so that all the data mirrored, right? Because it's not like they don't use Salesforce anymore. They still do use Salesforce for some manual aspects of their business, right? So the data needs to be updated. So what we've kind of done with Salesforce here, I got to be careful of showing tokens.
Yes, just
But
don't expand it. Yeah, so
yeah, I won't expand anything else. But what we basically did was, if someone is created in Salesforce, we create them here. If someone is created here in Bubble, we create them in
Great.
Salesforce. This way, we kind of have this dual database of information that they can use in.
That's also smart. Yeah, but
Yeah.
to make it clear, they are not using Excel to calculate all this anymore, right?
No. We still use Excel to upload and download data, but other than that, no.
Good, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah, definitely.
for this. Yeah, for at the end, one more thing. If you could give one advice for the aspiring no-code developers or the developers who would like to move to no-code, what will be the advice? I mean, one advice why they should go into no-code and why they shouldn't.
Yeah. I'm gonna speak candidly. No code changed my life. Bubble is amazing. It is the it is the future, right? No code is an easier way to interact with something that already existed. It's another way of coding. From it, I've been able to understand other technical things much easier. So in general, the thing I'll tell you about no code is get started, learn something, like whether it's Glider, Softer, Bubble, it doesn't really matter. They're all really good tools. They all have their different pros and cons, which could take another hour long to talk about. um, but yeah, just get started. Even if it's just Airtable, right? It's going to give you superpowers. You're going to learn how to connect APIs. You're going to learn how to integrate and use the internet to its fullest ability, which previous to no code, only software developers could do, right? Only the folks who could read computer. um, in terms of things to note or things why not to, obviously no code has its limits, right? Like customization is important when you get to levels like this project, right? There's been many UI elements that we needed to inject code into, right? So just please note that while it's a solution and it's a faster, easier to learn solution, it is not the only solution, nor is it always the best solution, right? You're going to have to learn additionally technical things the more complicated and complex you want to go into this space. If you want to build Google, you're going to have to learn Google quality technology, right? Um, so get started. Something to learn from me, I guess, is AirDevs Bootcamp was awesome. Highly recommend it. Think that's a great place to learn. There's tons of other great resources out there. Lachlan over at Building with Bubble. I'm assuming Thomas here probably has some content out there that I haven't seen yet. Yeah, definitely just get started. Lots of smart people out there sharing information, Matt Neary. And a lot of it's free too. So take advantage. These people are doing a service for you, right? But again, just note, it's not always the solution. It's great, but it's not always the solution. So just take a pinch of salt when you're thinking how you can use Bubble to change the world.